Morning, everybody. As we know, in this last week, there's been a major shift in the weather. It's been insanely cold, specifically here in Cleveland and many other places. Wind chills as low as -17. It was pretty bad. Turns out it's from, as we know, that weather system that came over the North Pole from Siberia. So we have a taste of that lovely Russian winter. So we say that they can keep it, but want to move to the point of 80 years ago at this time in Russia, on a manufacturing city on the Volga River in the Caucasus region, was currently going on the Battle of Stalingrad. Now, what is the big deal with the Battle of Stalingrad? In the end, it would be one of the biggest, most significant battles of all time, both large in terms of significance and in terms of loss of life. Now, the Germans began hitting the city in August of 1942, and they were doing pretty well. Actually, they had a heck of a time in the beginning, so they decided to make the brilliant move to bomb the city into rubble, which all it did was make it perfect for urban warfare and street-to-street house fighting. It got really pretty bad, and so it got to where the Germans actually had about 90% of the city. But the problem is, I mean, not the problem for the Germans was that the Russians were still holding doggedly to the banks of the Volga River, still sending men and material over on a daily basis and refusing to give up the city. It became one of the biggest, I'm sorry, no other word fits, biggest pissing matches of all time because you had both Stalin and Hitler fighting vehemently for the city that bore Stalin's name. That's largely what it was. Yes, there was some strategic significance to Stalingrad, but it was not a vital position. Had thus Russians lost it, it would have been more of a morale loss than anything else. But so that was going on with that. So yeah, but the Germans had most of the city to where not in November of 1942, Hitler actually claimed that the city was taken. But the Soviets kept going. They kept fighting because the the leader of the German Sixth Army, General Paulus, he said the position was bad and it was getting worse, and he was asking permission to withdraw from the city to put his army in a better position. Hitler took the position of not one step back. He refused to let them step back, leaving thousands and thousands of German soldiers to pretty much fester in the city because they couldn't build fires, and it got the temperatures in excess of -40 degrees. I mean, it got to where things were so bad physically for the German soldiers while they were trying to take this city to where there was, I'm not trying to be graphic, but just trying to give you an example of just how bad it got to where some parts of the internal body began to freeze, particularly in the colon, lower stomach area, to where certain things would freeze, to where the men, in many cases, could no longer relieve themselves because parts of the body were frozen. And it got so bad for many of these cases that some of the soldiers actually died because of that. It was just horrible pain that came from that. And I was telling that story to one of my coworkers yesterday, and he just said, it gives a whole new meaning to the term, pardon my tongue, French. I stumbled on that one. Pardon my French on this one, but he said it gives a whole new meaning to the term freezing your ass off. And I said, yeah, it kind of fits. So that's some of the things that happened with that. And finally wound up to where in February of 1943, General Paulus wound up surrendering the German Sixth Army. And over 91,000 German frozen skeleton prisoners of German soldiers were taken prisoner by the Red Army. It was a big morale boost for the Soviets, whereas Hitler lost his largest army because of his unwillingness to let his generals do their job. But in terms of loss of life, they say during the Stalingrad campaign that the Germans lost upwards of 500,000 men in that campaign, and notwithstanding the 91,000 they lost in Stalingrad itself. And the Russian numbers have changed. Stalin originally said 25,000, but the numbers have gone as high as 250,000, and they've gone even higher than that in terms of some other numbers, just for trying to take and hold that city. So those are some of the things that were happening around this time 80 years ago. So there you go.